There are images of courage that will never be forgotten. None is quite as powerful as the nameless young man who walked in front of the tank during the Tiananmen Square Massacre in 1989. No one knows his name or the story behind his brave act. But first-time novelist Terrence Cheng explores who this young man may have been in his novel, Sons of Heaven.
It is set during the Tiananmen Square Massacre of 1989, and it is told in three voices. And the first is that of this fictional young man who I call Xiao Di, which is little brother in Chinese. And he is based on the real young man who stood in front of the tanks during Tiananmen Square, and of course became the centerpiece of that incredible moment and picture. And the reason that I was inspired to try and create a life for him is because he is unknown to this day. We don't know if he's alive, if he's dead, what happened to him after that moment in time.
And he's never come forward?
No. There were rumors of his execution, but again, nothing was ever corroborated. The Chinese government will not reveal any information on his whereabouts or anything along those lines. So he really is a kind of mystery, and he's become this kind of almost mythological figure in a way, because he did come out and freeze the world for those few seconds and then disappear, kind of like a ghost in a way. So I was just fascinated by this person who was not one of the student leaders. He was not a person looking for attention. He was just a common everyday person who was involved, and his actions spoke so much louder than all of the rhetoric that was being spewed between the students and the government at that time. So in my book, I try to create a life for him. I give him a voice and try to tell a story about someone who was involved in that time, someone who had feelings. I think what we end up doing is we end up taking away an individual's humanity in the greater context of a remarkable situation like Tiananmen Square, but we forget that this person who walked in front of the tanks was a man who had a family, who had feelings and emotions and motivations, and those were the things that really drove me to want to investigate what that kind of person might be thinking and feeling. The other two voices in the book are those of a People's Liberation Army soldier whose name is Lu. And this is a fictional character, and Lu is the brother of Xiao Di. And ultimately he is commissioned to find his brother after his brother has committed these treasonous acts of standing in front of the tanks, in front of the world's view. The third voice is that of the former communist leader Deng Xiaoping, who is supposed to have given the word, the final command, for the People's Liberation Army to suppress this democracy movement. I feel like Deng is a character who was not examined in a human way, and when we in the West received this information about Tiananmen Square, we got it in sound bites, we got it in headlines and snippets, but we forget again that Deng Xiaoping was a man. And although if he really did give that command to have the army come in and suppress this movement, we must examine his motivations, we must examine his psyche, and really try and figure out how someone can come to the point where they will call in their national army to kill their own people. I can't get my brain around that type of decision. What goes into that? What kind of feelings go into that? So the book is about the human stories of these three men wrapped up in this tumultuous and chaotic moment in history.
Why would you choose the name Little Brother? I mean, there are all sorts of names you could have given him.
I didn't want to give that character a real name because I thought it would have been presumptuous, and I also thought it would have been disrespectful in many ways, because this person was ultimately doing something that symbolized so much more. Not that I personally believe that he felt that he was doing it. I think that to give him a name would have been crossing the line. I wanted to keep him as a symbol in a way of the movement, of the people and their feelings and their emotions, but at the same time have him be an everyman, but to know this everyman, to feel a connection with the everyman. Reportedly, people were saying that his name was Wang Wei Lin, but again, we have never received real official corroboration on that, because when they went looking for Wang Weilin, they couldn't find his family, they couldn't find his records, and so on and so forth. So he really remained a mystery, and I wanted him to remain a kind of mystery in the novel as well.
Of the three characters, the three voices in the story, which one was the hardest for you?
I felt that Xiao Di, little brother's voice, was difficult in many ways. I felt a great amount of pressure trying to write from his point of view and Deng Xiaoping's point of view as well, because I did not want to make a grotesque error that would bring dishonor upon me as a writer, but also upon my subject, upon my characters. I wanted to create a character in Xiao Di that was honest, that was real, but who also had enough qualities of richness that made him a little different, that made him stand out.
Will this novel help people understand more about China and about the relationships?
I think this novel will help people to be more open in terms of judgment, in terms of understanding of cultures. I'm an American citizen. I grew up here. I came here when I was just a child, a baby. So I approached the book with very Western sensibilities, and through my research, I learned a great deal about China and Chinese history, and I tried to include as much of it as I could that helped the dramatic architecture of the novel. And I think the setting and the way history in China has affected people on all levels, I think that's very important. That's what struck me so much, was how this remarkable and incredible and disastrous moment in history affects not only the common everyday person, but the soldier as well as the nation's leader. All the people are affected by what happens through the politics and the history and the social construct of that society.
Sons of Heaven is published by William Morrow and is available in bookstores now.